Considering that these videos are still free, I think the production value is something you should be able to overlook in order to squeeze some value out of them. And I think there's some value here. How does the production budget affect things? Well, if I do too many takes of a video, my marker runs out. So if something doesn't look good to you, you can redraw it yourself. I think that's fair. Okay, what we have here is a sloppy little piece of the Tonnetz, which if you don't know what it is, go ahead and check. Okay, I don't use the Tonnetz very much. I don't, but I'm going to show you it has some utilities that are often not talked about, and if you see somebody else making a similar video or making a similar point about the Tonnetz, that's fine. I'm not certain that I'm the first person to come up with this, and I have not bothered to investigate to see if somebody else is applying it similarly. But this is the idea. I've got you start with this little triad here, for example, the C, E, G triad. I'm just going to go through it like this. Start with C, go to E, go to G. If you try to go in a spiral, okay, and a little spiral around that first tone, eventually you can't do that, and you're going to have to go off track to get to a tone that has not already been used. So it'll begin as a spiral, and it'll begin to fall apart. And from that, you will get a tone row. If you start with the C and the E, or the C and the G. If you go to the E and the G, if you try to do a major third, you're going to find that you get trapped and you have to backtrack. And I don't know if you even want to do that. But it's better to try to generate these things on your own to understand how they work a little bit better. Why would I want to use the Tonnetz to generate a tone row? A good reason is this, that if you play an instrument, or if you're writing for an instrument that the tones are not discrete to each other, a plucked string instrument or a mallet instrument where one tone begins or the other one is still sounding, they will slop over each other. If you can put them at intervals where they're a little bit further apart, or if they're in kind of more obvious consonant relationships, you can get a less kludgy sounding line out of it. And contrary to what many people think, people who write serial music don't want everything to sound like a big mess. They don't. So what I did here is this is my I started doing this little spiral just as an example. Okay, goes around there, and you can see it's going to continue. So this is my tone row. My first. I've done many since then. I'm just showing you the first one. My Tonnetz tone row. And how have I assigned the octave positions? Well, I'll tell you this. The dead interval, which is this interval class 1 between the B and the C, I want that to be stretched out. Okay, just because if you're gonna pluck two strings, or if you're going to strike two keys on a mallet instrument, the first one slops over into the second one. It's probably better that they be like this. And if you watch my other videos, I've talked many times about major seventh, either upward or downward, being a special default continuation interval among the large intervals. It seems to imply continuation more. So I've used this. I moved this last tone to the beginning here so that it continues down here, and that serves as your frame for the other tones there. That way you can cycle this thing. And the messiest interval is just this. Okay, it's just that major seventh, and it continues down there. So it becomes a comparatively smooth tone row if you think of these as being comparatively smooth intervals. Okay, so again, you can play with the Tonnetz in various other ways. Don't be surprised if you get trapped on that minor third. In a later video, I'm going to show you a variant of the Tonnetz, which can be used to produce tone rows that sound like they are closely related to the pentatonic scale, which would be useful for elaborating music that sounds essentially pentatonic if you want to push it out of shape. But for now, I think that's plenty.